Welcome to Destination Deutschland. I'm Sujin. I've spent countless hours, days, months, just working on my CV, applying to countless jobs. I must have sent out my resume to 100 different companies, and I just kept hitting wall after wall. I wasn't sure what I was doing wrong, so I thought, okay, I need help. I started looking into companies and discovered there are companies that help you with job search, helping you convert your CV so it goes by German standards, and even companies that will help you with the process after they help you find a job. Well, after looking at a few companies and also running into a few walls, I found Move to Europe. Move to Europe was actually recommended to me by a friend who was also going through the same process. And ever since I've started working with them, it has been a great thing. They've helped me with my CV, they're helping me look for jobs, they're helping me with the application, and they go through the entire process with you. But don't let me tell you all about it. I have Urban here with me. He is one of the founding members of Move to Europe, and trust me, you want to listen to the rest of this because it is worth it. And I highly recommend you check them out because trust me, they can help me out. They can definitely help you out.
Yeah, my name is Urban, founder of the Move to Europe program.
So describe Move to Europe a little bit. Like, what exactly is the company?
Company. Move to Europe was founded a year ago, and our goal is to help foreigners who want to come to Europe to transition as smooth as possible. And that usually includes job search, visa, relocation, insurances, all the little things you need to do when you change your country. And for most of our clients, even the continent.
Oh, okay. And what inspired you to start this program?
There's a couple of things. I mean, maybe the background helps. I come from recruitment, and we get so many applications from all over the world. And most of the time, we can't really help because you really have to specialize on that to find out the hurdles and how you can help and the right jobs and all of that. And that's what I wanted to do. And luckily, I found a couple of people that thought the same and are being a huge help now in setting this all up.
How so how did your first year go? Like, how did it start from day one?
um, it was much at a much faster pace than I thought, to be honest. It was meant to be just a small side project in the beginning, but we saw that so many people showed interest in working with us. So that's why we had to scale much faster than I thought. Um, we learned a lot along the way. So there's a couple of things I wouldn't do anymore that we did in the beginning, and a couple of things we learned. And funny enough, we also learned a lot from our clients, really what they already did and what worked for them. But just yeah, step by step, it's increasing and the pace is going up. So now there's a whole team where we're 18 people only working on that now.
Wow.
And it started with two and a side project, like 50% of our time doing it.
So what makes Move to Europe different than other programs that are similar?
To be honest, I'm not much aware of the competition. That might sound very strange for you, but I mean, we're a German-based company. We know the market here. We're locals. We have visa specialists here and people there and a good network. That's something you need to have in this industry. And we focus very much on the American market. That's maybe also something I know that in India and other Asian countries, that's very popular. I'm not aware of many people doing that in the United States, really focusing on bringing folks from there and helping with all the little steps from start to finish, which is not only the job search, but visa, relocation, how to do it, how to also help companies understand that you can start within 3 months, for example, which is always a big question mark when you apply. So that's all the little things we can do for you and take off your plate when searching for something in Europe.
That's really fantastic. Speaking of that, what makes moving to Europe so interesting to people? What have your clients said as their reasoning as to why they want to move?
Yeah, there's many different reasons. I mean, the most obvious is the political situation. I don't want to go much into detail there. Everyone has his or her own opinion there. Other than that, work-life balance is what I'm hearing a lot. So you want to have 40 hours a week, 30 days of paid vacation, plus the public holidays. Travel distances, just that people like it, that in Europe there's so many different cultures. You can, even over the weekend, you can see a total different place. What we hear a lot, and what's a little bit frightening to me, because I didn't know that, is the security for children. So if I hear about school shootings and stuff, that happens every once in many years in Europe, and then it's in all over the big news. And it seems that in the US, the situation is a little bit different. So that's probably the most common 3, 4 reasons I heard so far.
That's fair. Um, so you mentioned different things that you offer help with. So you offer help with visas. Do you also help with getting their first bank account, perhaps a place to live? Do you have resources as to helping Americans finding a place to live on a visa?
Yeah, so we have different packages, and it depends then what steps we help with. It always, or usually, it starts with informing you about the options regarding visa types. So, do you want to come up front already and discover a little bit? For example, as an American, you can just have a visa-free entry first, then you can have a job seeker visa. There's different types of, depending on the country, job search, and then everything that comes after. Usually, then again, there's a visa. You have to either transfer it or get it first. And then all the little steps, we have success managers that help you with all the little steps. You take your hand to really be there, WhatsApp, email, even phone calls, doing it, filling out paperwork. If it's only in German, we help you and just fill it out, and you only have to sign it. So all the little things. Yes, we built that up step by step. We started only with the job part and learned very quickly that there's a lot more where we can help with.
Okay. Do any of your clients ever start with, say, the lowest package and then later decide to upgrade? Is that something you ever seen happen?
Yeah, we had that. To be fair, it makes sense to start at least in the middle tier. If you look at our packages, one is just giving you job leads. So that's something you could do on your own. If you find out all the job boards and put in the manual work, you can do it. Of course, if someone does it all the time, every day, uses job scrapers and all of that, for us, it's much easier to get that and present it to you. But in this basic package, that's everything you get. So after that, all the little questions you might have in your hand, yes, we answer some emails, but there's nobody calling into these companies, following up for you, sending in applications, which always takes time. So usually if people calculate their own time and what they could earn in their job or do with their family or whatever you want to do in this time, it makes sense to have at least a middle tier for everything around the job search, or go for the VIP package that includes everything.
Okay. So what kind of Americans end up coming to you to move to Europe? What type of professions do you usually see?
It's all white collar jobs at the moment. That's how we started, and we're still the strongest. We get some demand from blue collar jobs now as well. I'm thinking about starting this. So if you are someone in a blue collar job, feel free to reach out and ask at least. But that's not something we did so far. For white collar jobs, the strongest market by far is IT. Other than that, sales, marketing, finance are jobs where there is demand and where we can help.
Do you ever have professionals come to you, for example, like in-home caregivers that are looking for a position in Europe, or people want to work in say pharmacies, or even want to get involved in, say, working for the transit, like they want to work for Deutschland or ICE?
Yes, yes, both, or everything you mentioned happens so far. Pharmaceutical, it's not that easy because there's not the broad variety of jobs out there. So there's a couple of big players in southern Germany, for example, and in Switzerland. But yeah, we would have to take a look. So whenever we get a request from someone, we take a look if we can help. So that's tricky cases sometimes. There's big players you also know in the US, like BioNTech, for example. Yes, sometimes hiring, sometimes slowing down. As of now, they're slowing down a little bit more. So we have a couple of clients there and we already successfully placed, but it's a little bit harder than, for example, in tech, where there's huge demand. So if you're good in tech, software development, administration, cloud, AI, you name it, there's demand in all the industries at the moment.
Okay. Um, let's see here. What's one of the biggest challenge that your clients face, like some of the biggest challenges they face when they finally move or they finally get a job offer?
Organizing everything and knowing about all the little steps you need to do. You have to imagine, I mean, if you search a job based in the US, so you, let's say you're still there, you do the job interviews remotely or fly into the final interview, but then come back. All of a sudden you have the offer and the company wants to start you as soon as possible. Big difference between US and Germany. As soon as possible in Germany is more like 2-3 months. So don't worry, it's not like the next day. They're aware. And in Germany, we have notice periods. So there, if a German would change their job, they also would only be available after 3 months plus. But 3 months is not a long time to make everything happen. So you have to get the visa, you have to get the appointment first with the embassy. That takes some time. Then you have to prepare all the paperwork. And don't forget anything, because then you lose another month to get the next appointment. So having everything settled there, then usually people have to sell their house or end their lease or whatever it is, pack their stuff, sell some stuff usually, because you don't want to bring everything to your new life in Europe, book the flights. If there's children, search for school or kindergarten, healthcare, insurances, so many things. I mean, overall, it's all doable, but usually you still have your main job. You have a lot of things to do. And most of our clients are very worried to forget about some things, so we can help with checklists and someone guiding you and also calming you down. I mean, there's so many people that made it before. So we can help with everything.
Fair. You mentioned kids. What about clients with pets? So like dogs or cats?
Yep, possible. A little bit of paperwork, some health checks for the dogs or the pets overall, but it's possible. We can help with how this process works. People have done it before. It's not that easy to just warn you. It's a lot of paperwork, takes some time.
Okay. What type of support do you provide for Americans who don't have a support base in Europe? People who don't know anyone in Europe yet?
That's not a problem. So that's the standard process is like that. We rarely have people that really know anyone. Usually they have visited once or twice and fell in love with an area and say it would be great to be there. But that's it. Other than that, I mean, we're providing everything. We can also introduce you depending on the region. There's some group of expats where we can introduce you, and then from there, you just network the first couple of months and you'll have your friends and connections.
Do you ever have any move to Europe get-togethers, say like kind of a mixer and say uh, a way for them to all meet each other and meet other fellow Americans that moved over?
We don't yet, but it's a great idea. We're too much caught up in the probably in the daily life at the moment with our clients. But yes, I mean, we started a year ago. We're having almost 50 people that came here now. So yes, it would step by step it would make sense to start it. Let's see.
Okay.
What would be the central meeting point then? Because of course they're all in different regions and countries.
That's fair. That is fair. What kind of resources do you have for Americans who haven't visited Europe or only visited, say, on vacation and all they did was tourist attractions? Do you have anything, resources or people to talk to teach them things that are different? For example, warning them that they can't go shopping on Sundays, that sort of thing.
We try to educate a little bit through our social media at the moment on that topics. Other than that, just they can always ask us. And of course, when they start, so when they transition finally, we give them like a welcome info map with things that others found valuable. But that's it so far. So there will be a few surprises. But, we try to minimize them.
Fair. Do you have any, I don't know, funny stories of a client that got a job, they'd never been to Europe before, had no idea what was going on, and maybe to like an oopsie they messaged you about, or had like a out there question? For example, why are there 5 different colored trash cans outside of their apartment? That sort of thing.
We get a lot of funny questions. Yeah, for things that are normal. So I grew up in Germany, so I have some German stories. Shops closing at 8 at night in Bavaria, for example. It's just normal. Everyone knows it here. Well, it's very strange to Americans. Or if public holiday, it's just closed. So it could be that for 3 days, nothing is open. And yeah, everyone is getting their groceries before. But that happens a lot. Recycling. Just how does that work? Why do I get money back from my PT bottle, stuff like that? Yes. Yes, there's a lot. Yes.
Okay. So let's kind of go through a day in the life. You've got a brand new client. They went through your consultation. You figured out what program is good for them. What would an average first day with who they're assigned with go? Like how would that process start?
Mm-hmm. So step by step, usually we have an upfront call, as you said, then people decide what kind of option they want to take. Then they sign up. It's a contract, everything settled, and then we're ready to go. Then they can book their onboarding call with one of our client managers. In this onboarding call, this will be a recorded call so that after that, our lead generation team knows what kind of job leads are right for them. And if they sign up for gold or VIP packages, also our sales team knows what kind of connections they should look out for you. And also that they know which person they're working for. So yes, we have a CV or a LinkedIn profile, but it's always about the person, right? So if I'm getting to know you, I can much better transfer that to my connection, say, hey, there's this person, these skills, this kind of personality, that's their motivation, why they want to go. So all these things is why we record this call. In this call, we will ask a lot of questions. It will feel like a very relaxed job interview. So we will ask probably kind of the same questions. Why do we want to come? What kind of skills do you have? What kind of industries are you into? What kind of job titles? All of that. It's just much more relaxed, right? And we can challenge things and advise a little bit what to focus on. But yeah, that's the first hour. After that, that triggers at our side that we create a new version of your resume. European resumes look usually a little bit different. They have a picture in it, for example. It's strange to Americans, but that's how it is here. A little bit other structure, some buzzwords, and also with AI also increasing in Europe, it's important that the right buzzwords are in the right places and how often you name it and stuff like that. So we optimize the CV afterwards. We sign you up for some job boards where recruiters usually search. So yes, LinkedIn is also the biggest network in Germany, but there's some others where you can have a CV database and just look into and search for people. So that's stuff we're doing. And then your lead generation specialist will get in touch with you once this is done, usually within 1 week. We can start the process. And then it's really, you get job leads, you check them, especially in the first 2-3 weeks. It's very important for us that you are very active and check them and give feedback and say, hey, yes, it's a project management role, but I don't bring that industry experience or that skill. And then we can adjust it. And then, of course, after a couple of weeks, it's like we're a close team, we know each other, and it all works. And every now and then still, usually every 2 weeks, we do a quick check-in call to see how is it going. And if you're a VIP client, we also have the possibility to book in a quick call with me every time you need it. as per availability, but it's like 20 minutes call. Just you need something, drop it into my calendar, and I'm trying to make it.
Okay. And then let's see here. So how long does it typically take? So I know you mentioned about 2 or 3 months. Is that about the average for your clients?
I have to be fair, it's a little bit more at the moment. It's 4.3 months.
Okay.
I'm still very proud because that's a good number for we're only doing this a little bit more than a year. I assume that the longer we're doing it, the more this number will drop, but it depends. So first we need to work with the right clients, where the CV is attractive. That will help us to reduce the number. On the other hand, I don't want to exclude a little bit more tricky cases. So this will be a balance act to keep the number down by assigning on the right clients, but also not excluding too many of the tricky cases. Yeah, and that, of course, it's an average, right? We have people. I just had a case in April. I think it was after 2 weeks, everything was signed.
Oh, wow.
Because he was in the orientation call. I knew he's kind of perfect for a company I know. Calling into the company, they say, yeah, book the interview, had 3 rounds of interviews, but within probably 7 days, 8 days, something like that. And they fell in love with each other. And now he's in Munich. I will visit him 2 weeks from now.
That's
Very curious to
amazing.
see him in person. Yes. So that happens. And then on the other side, you have some cases, right, where it's 7, 8 months. But we're working on it. Some clients also need 10 interviews. Some need only 2 to crack a job offer. That's all part of the game.
Do you think how much the client interacts with like the lead spreadsheet plays into the time factor as well?
Yeah. That's something we see a lot, how active people are. That's one very important thing. I mean, we support you as a job seeker. It's not like we can do the whole job for you. So yes, the interviews, you have to crack them yourself. That's the case anyway, but also before. So if you use your LinkedIn actively, for example, and connect, we already have the link of the decision maker in the spreadsheet that we're sharing there. But if you drop them a nice message, or we advise to do a quick video introduction, just a 1 minute, hey, that's me, I'm coming to, I don't know, Germany, that's my passion, that's my skills, just we name that elevator pitch in sales. If you can do that and drop that, it makes you stand out of the crowd. Because seeing the other side, I've worked in recruitment for 12 years now. If you have a good job, there's hundreds of people applying. Most of them from foreign countries, many from Asian countries. You don't have the time to really go into detail for everything. So you use your filters, you use your experience, and someone doing the extra mile and doing a little bit more, if it's in a good way, in a professional way, it helps. That's something you can increase the chances to getting an interview a lot. And we're happy to train you with that. We also do trainings every month. There's an open training session to train people what to do, how to do it, also how to conduct an interview and all of that.
Oh, because I was just about to ask if you trained in that. Trying to figure out how to do like what would a good kind of elevator speech would be. And then, of course, interview tips, because I'm assuming that interviews in Europe are going to be a little bit different than interviews in America. Obviously, the basis of it is going to be the same, but maybe lingo is something a person needs to pay attention to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we do these kind of interviews, trainings, and yeah, I think it's important even for professionals. We have many people that also are managers, so they interviewed even from the other side of the table before. They're doing great, but there's a couple of small takeaways usually everybody learns and implements that helps. And the main difference between US and German interviews is German, it's usually less interviews. So there's even one-offs. You have one interview and then you get a job offer or you declined. That happens. Usually it's 2 to 3. They're longer. They're a little bit more personal. So there's a little bit of coffee chat up front and stuff like that. While in America, it's very on point. Usually that's at least my experience that I had with American interviews. It's like 30 minutes. The focus is on that topic and go. That's much different here. It's more about personality, asking some personal stuff, preparing some good questions, but always connecting with the person really. And yeah, there's a couple of small tricks you can always use that increase the chances slightly.
Okay. And if I think I heard that it's also common in Germany to kind of do a like a shadowing where either during the first interview or maybe like the first day of work where you see what the company looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah, many companies at least offer that. It's not every company, I would say. I'm just thinking about percentage-wise, probably like 20-30% do that or offer it themselves or even want it and force you to do it before you even get a job interview. What's always good is if you are already there to ask for it. So if you are on a Jobseeker Visa or on your 90-day free visa entry, yes, I would always ask for that. Gives you a great feeling about, do you really fit in there? They can get to know you. Always recommend it. It's tough for people that still have a job. So that's why people slow that down, especially in IT. Not many good software developers, for example, are open to do that for a full day. They're happy to jump in for 2-3 hours, but that's max. And so that's why this slowed down a bit, but it's a good thing that many companies still offer it.
Okay. Let's see here. So obviously, since you work with a lot of Americans and you mentioned having to help if say something is fully in German, the common misconception is that Americans can't find jobs in Europe if they're not fluent in a European language. How often do you find that to like how do I phrase this? Is it difficult for Americans to find a job without having any type of European language background? And how difficult do they find it living there if they can't speak the language?
Mm-hmm. Let's start with the second point. That's easier. How easy is it with English language in Europe? There's countries where it's very easy. I would consider Germany, the Nordics, so Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Netherlands for sure. Even France, it's very much possible with English language. The further south you go, the much harder it gets. So for example, Italy, Spain, there's like the capitals where it works, and some of the big cities like Milano, there it works, but in the rural areas or smaller towns, no chance at all. So you have to learn the local language, and also jobs, especially in Italy, for example, it's very hard to find an English-speaking job. Much different, Germany, Netherlands, Nordics, Spain, sometimes it's possible. And then there's more exotic countries where it also might work. Iceland, for example, very much possible to find an English speaker job. And of course, everything close to the UK, so Ireland. For example, we get many requests for Ireland at the moment. So that's a country we just started working in because of the many requests. It's also possible. I mean, it's a small country. There's not many jobs out there, but the ones, of course, as English is their main language, it's very easy then.
Okay.
And yeah, finding a job, it's in Germany, for example, it's like 30-40% of the jobs it's possible with English only. So don't worry, it just limits the options. So the earlier you start to learn German, for example, if it's Germany, the better. To be fair, it only makes a difference job searching wise once you are close to B2 level. Because if you speak A1 or A2, it's great progress and a lot of hours, and I appreciate always people doing it. Of course, as a company, you still can't send them to be a consultant and talk with a client in German, so there's not much of a difference.
Okay. And then what you mentioned different visa options. What visa options do you assist with?
Basically all in the countries that we work with, so Germany, Austria, Netherlands, Denmark are our core countries that we operate in. Just mentioned Ireland. We also do Switzerland, very tricky. I know many people want to go there. Also Germans want to go there. Beautiful country, great salary, very tough to break it there. But yeah, in all these countries we assist with. And yeah, most common visa type is the EU blue card. Most of those who have researched before will have come across that term. That's the one that's most frequently used, but there's some other options. For example, we also helped a few people to come to Portugal because there's a passive income visa. So even if you don't find a job, that might be an option you might be interested in. If you have some houses you rent out or whatever you do, stock market, you have your passive income there, you could go there even without having a job and have your base in Portugal and then search for jobs in other European countries or stay there. Beautiful there, cheaper there, but not many jobs. So that's always then the tricky thing to how to then go from there.
Okay. What options are like specific to a certain country? For example, do you help with like the skilled workers visa, the Jobseeker Visa, just the individual different ones that are perhaps within a country?
Yeah, so I have my specialists for every country then that assist and help with the options. The countries we're mostly operating in, so Germany is by far number one at the moment. There we help with the Jobseeker Visa. There's two different types of Jobseeker Visa and Opportunity Card. Opportunity Card is fairly new. It's a point system. Sounds a little bit tricky. In the end, it's fairly easy to check if you're eligible for it and if we can help with that. And yes, if you don't qualify for the EU Blue Card, which is rarely the case because Germany makes it rather easy at the moment to get it, we would also help with other cases. For Germany, for example, we have somebody working at the Foreign Office, so she knows best. Very lucky to have her on board. I always just send it to her, say, hey, please check. And then, of course, there's like 95% you can do in her situation, but also for her, sometimes it's like, yeah, you have to try. Chances are good, but it's person on the other side. If he or her rejects, then it might get tricky. And then we just give that information directly to you, help you preparing everything. Yeah, if it works, great. And if at one point there will be a case where it didn't work so far, everything worked out great, then we will just check for other options.
Well, that's good. And then what would you give as a piece of advice to save someone a lot of headache, to help them get the visa on the first try?
Preparation is very important. So either really research what you need and double check or check even more often that everything is fine, or spend that money. Yes, it might hurt to spend a couple of $100 on just preparing a visa, but it really helps in the end because it takes a lot of time. And if you don't get it and you have to, in the US, if you do it from the US, for example, there's only a few points that do that. So to get an appointment, for example, in Atlanta, it takes a little bit more than a month. And even there, it's tricky. So they give you only appointments 1 month in advance, and then you have to be very fast to click, be the first one to click at the moment, because there's many people that want to come to other countries. So yeah, that would be probably the most important piece of advice. Other than that, don't be too scared. It works, it worked for others. It's very much possible to get it.
What kind of benefits do you see that are different in Europe versus America? I know you mentioned vacation days. What other benefits do you?
But by far the biggest is really your time, that you really like 40 hours of working is standard. There's even part-time contracts which are common and not seen as this person is lazy. It's just normal. If you're having a family, you might do 30 hours a week for some time, and it's all right. And you still can, in IT, for example, yes, then you don't earn 80, 90K, you earn 60, 70, but it will be enough. And don't be scared about the numbers. I know that's like half or a third of what people make in, depending on which area in the US, but the average salary in Germany is 50 something thousand. So if you are in one of the blue card jobs like IT, sales, even marketing, most of the jobs are paid higher. So you'll have a good life and you will have actually time to enjoy, to travel around, to see things. So that's by far, I'd say, the biggest benefit. Of course, other than that, there's like some companies offer free meals or stuff that you can do, like mobility. You get a train ticket for free. You can go to the gym for free, stuff like that. There's always a list at the end of each job advert. You will see that with things we add on top. But personally, I say having time for your loved ones, for your hobbies, everything like that is probably the biggest benefit you can get.
So, what's the minimum days, the minimum paid time off that a person gets, minimum sick time that a person gets, and the average number of national holidays in, say, Germany?
Sick times is also a funny thing. Yes. So sick times, there's no minimum or maximum to that. If you're sick, you're sick. And you're protected by law. So after 6 months of probation period in Germany, it's the first 6 months you start a job. In this 6 months, a company can let you go without giving any reason within 2 weeks of notice period. If you pass that and you work in a company bigger than 12 people, you're fairly safe in Germany, for example, because the law protects you. So you would have to do really big mistakes. And there's a thing called Abmahnung, which means, hey, that's kind of a yellow card. And if you get multiple for the same reason, then they still can let you go. Or if they are really in financial trouble, but they have to prove it, then they can let you go. But it's much, much harder. And maybe a quick fun story about that. I worked for a big startup, daughter of General Motors, that also had a subsidiary in Munich. And I worked for them being the recruiter for the place. So we grew from 40 to 100 people while I was there. In the US, much, much bigger. And then they had layoffs because something bad happened. They had to cut almost half of their employees. What happened is they cut everything in the US. In Germany, not a single person, just because they were afraid that the laws, and until they settle all this, it's just too expensive, too tricky. Let's just stay, let them work and do their stuff. So there's a lot of protection, which as an employer makes it sometimes tricky to really invest and be sure you want this person. But once you're in there and you pass to 6 months, as an employee, it's great. You just never have this feeling like tomorrow I don't have work anymore. That's not something a European knows as a feeling.
That's actually really nice to know, because job security is something that is kind of uncertain here, but knowing that about Europe, it's understandable why so many people want to move there.
Yeah, here, hope I don't go too much into detail, but for example, one of the big OEMs for in automotive, they have layoff programs, but they pay huge amount of money, and people voluntarily now say yes. We're talking about 6-figure numbers there, and then they say, hey, at the moment, we have to reduce the spending at the moment. We all know automotive, it's not going great. The big German car companies are struggling a bit, so they can't just let people go. They then offer a lot of money and say, hey, if you want to voluntarily leave us in 6 months of time, then we give you 200, 300, 400K, and that's it. So that's stuff that's happening here, where in the US, they would just say, sorry, we don't need you anymore. Thank you, but bye. That doesn't happen here.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely really good security. And one of the common things in America is that you have a set number of sick days. You only have usually have like 5 to 10 days a year that you can call in sick. So I've heard it's very, very different in Europe. So how's it different?
Yeah. So if you're sick, you're sick. For us, that's a very strange concept, right? Because if you're sick, there's nothing you can do about it. In let's say Germany again, just because it's the biggest market at the moment where people want to go. In Germany, it works like that. You just call in sick. You have to inform your employer first day. Most employers, they can say, hey, I need a doctor's paper that you are sick. Most companies don't need it until the third day, because that's where they get some money from the healthcare system. As they lose workforce for some time, then they get some extra money. Before that, the company just loses money, but they just trust you and say, okay, if you're sick, you're sick. Yeah, but you could be, there's people that are 6 months. I mean, if you break your leg and you work in a job where you need to stand and walk around and carry things, what can you do, right? So that just happens. After some time, you get a little bit less of your income, like 60% of it. If it's too long, we're talking about months then. But other than that, there's no maximum whatsoever. Yeah, and we always hope that people play it fair. So of course, there's people that try to take advantage of that, but most people appreciate how the system is and just not call in sick if they're not sick.
Who do you feel like move to Europe is best for? What type of professionals?
Usually it's people that already made up their mind they really want to do the step. That's the first thing. Just because we have many, you would call it window shoppers in sales, right? People that say, yeah, maybe someday I'll go. Yes, but you would put in your money and our time into this. So once we work together, you can expect someone working on your case between 1 hour in gold package and 2 hours in VIP package per workday. So there's a lot of time going into this. So you really need to make, you want to make it happen, then this is for you. Professions, I mean, there's a strong professions like IT and some others, right? Depending on the country, we can advise you if it works out for this country. If we really can help you, that's something we will tell you then in advance. Yeah, and of course, if you speak the language already, it's even better. Then you just increase the chances, or if you're willing and have some time to learn it. And best case, you also have 1 or 2 hours a day or 5 hours a week to check the spreadsheet, be a little bit active on LinkedIn, all these little things where you can just increase your chance.
Okay. What's the best way to start if someone is just window shopping? So how do you advise them? Do you try to encourage them to, I guess, make up their mind as to whether or not they're sure they want to move to Europe, or if they're the type that's window shopping different countries in Europe? What kind of advice do you give them?
So window shopping different countries, I would advise you to book in a call with us and just learn the perspectives of what we have. We're working with many countries, so the chance that you want to go to a country where we have zero knowledge is pretty low. There's some black spots, just to make you aware, but most of the countries, and usually we always hear the same countries. It's rarely that we get something very uncommon. If you just make up your mind if you want to do it or not, I would break it down, just logically break it down. What are the blockers in your mind why you can't commit at the moment, and what's the timeline? And if it's the blockers, you can always ask us questions. I would advise to just drop us an email. It could be 10 different questions. That's totally fine. Ask these questions, or do your research up front. The more you're informed up front, the easier for us as well, but we're happy to help there. If it's the timeline, if you say, hey, in 2-3 years from now, I will do it, then I would advise to come back once it's between 9 and 12 months ahead. We have some clients that say, yeah, I want to make it happen and I want to move in 2 months. That's a little bit tricky because it puts a lot of pressure on you then, right? Because you have to really, you have a lot of pressure in interviews. You really want to make it. Then you probably accept the first best offer, whatever it is. Not always the best jobs out there. And yeah, it's just stressful and not really needed. So give it some time, usually 9 to 12 months in advance. Planning, if the ideal job comes around earlier, most of the time there's a way that you still can transition earlier. And if not, you at least have your connection that wanted to hire you there. Maybe they want to hire you later. And also you have the success. So you will be much more confident in interviews if you already trained some interviews. You have a feeling, hey, that's different. Oh, I said that and it was really positive feedback, or they gave me negative feedback because of that. And that's again something where it also helps to work with us. With some companies, not all of them, but some we can get really detailed feedback where they're open and say, yes, I can't. There's laws in Germany that protect or that make it very hard to give direct feedback to clients, to candidates, because they could sue you and say, hey, you didn't hire me because of this and that. So that could be age, that could be language. There's a couple of things where you're not allowed to reject someone because of different reasons. And the less info you give candidates, the less risk for you as a company. But they can give it to us. They can be very very open to us, and then we give it to our clients, and they can learn. Yeah, it's a win-win.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really helpful. Do you also have resources available? So for people to check out, say training, recommended resources to look at, for example. What you would recommend, like, if they move to, let's say they get a job in Frankfurt, but they don't want to actually live in Frankfurt because it's expensive and they want to live in one of the smaller towns outside of it. Do you have any resources for that for a person?
You mean to find a place, the right place, or what would be the goal?
To find a place, see what employers, if employers are okay that you're not actually living in the city that they hired you in, if there's any visa restrictions on that, say a resident permit, that sort of thing.
Okay, so as long as you're in the same country, there's no visa thing you have to have in mind. And your employer, it's not his business where you're living actually. So they can't really force you to live in an area or something. They can for sure say, hey, you have to be on site, and we have from 9 to 4 p.m., 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. you have to be on site, and it's your duty to make sure you are on time and to not say my flight was delayed because I'm flying every day. So that's for sure. Other than that, that's easy to find a place. In all of the bigger cities, it's a little bit of a struggle to get one. What most of our clients do is to start with in a boarding house. So that's kind of a furnished apartment. These companies are specialized in renting out to business people who either not planning to stay for a long time or just getting started there, and then search from there. And in the VIP package, so the biggest one, we also include to really guide you. So we do the research what the housing market offers at the moment. We ask for a budget and what kind of things to take into account. And yes, we guide through that. We also help with then calling in German language for our clients. That's usually very helpful, especially for older landlords that struggle a bit with English. And then we help with that.
Okay. What can a person expect, a client expect their first week? Do people usually move the same week that they're going to start their job? Do they move to Europe the week before? Like, what's the first week kind of look like, the first month?
It's very good questions. And from my feeling, it's very, we saw everything. We had someone who moved as soon as he got the job offer and did the visa process in Germany. That's something I highly recommend if you can do it, if you don't have a job in the US, so you can quit next day and don't have to worry about it. Jump on the next plane, do everything here. So the way it would work is you register a place where you stay, again, some kind of boarding house. Once you register a place in Germany, you can do the whole visa process in Germany. So here the times are it's faster to get an appointment, and the decision maker, the final decision maker is always in Germany. So the embassy in the US just sends it to Germany. Yes, they give already advice what to do, but in the end, they have to send it back and forth. You just save this time. If you forget something, you can just go there quickly, give it to them. You usually don't have to do a new appointment there. You just sneak in, say, hey, I forgot to send the apostille. Here it is, something like that. So that's the ideal case. Most people have still a job, have family, have stuff to sell, whatever. They try to come a week before, but we also had someone just really same day. He came with all his stuff. I mean, it's possible. It's possible, of course. If you have the chance, give yourself a couple of days to just, I mean, there's a time difference, there's a cultural difference, food difference, so many things you might want to first get a little bit, at least, experience in before starting into your job.
The boarding house, what are those like? Is it just kind of like an apartment, or is it, do you share the place with multiple people?
That are usually places with lots and lots of furnished apartments. It feels a little bit a mixture of a hotel and a flat. So it's like between 20 and 40 square meters, usually big flat screen in it. You have your fridge. So a couple of things. A workplace also usually, so you can work, you have stable Wi-Fi connection, all of that. But then there's also a bar or playing snooker or something. Because usually there's like a place where there's tens or hundreds, depending on the area, of people in the same situation.
Oh, that's fantastic. I don't think there's anything really like that here, except a literal hotel. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's a cool thing. I've lived in one of these for 2 months myself. I was a freelancer in recruitment. So before COVID, we all had to travel and be on site and do all the interviews on site with the candidates there. So I wasn't able in one of the bigger cities to find a flat for a limited amount of time. So I used that as well. Of course, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not crazy. I'm talking about $1,500 a month, for example. So yes, it's much for German standards for just being there in a 30 square meter flat. But on the other hand, you don't have to buy anything. You also need a landlord paper to register a flat. That's something you need to be aware of. They need to prove that you're actually living there. That's something someone private sometimes doesn't want to do, or a limited amount of time agreement. While they give it, once they hand over the key, they always already give it to you because they just know and did it so many times.
Okay, that's kind of neat. Let's see here. Trying to think if there's any other questions. I don't think we had anything else written down either.
What I could add is that the money you're paying for our service is, in some countries, Germany, for example, it's tax-free, which means you can get a tax return for everything that you paid. That's something people probably don't know. And it's a little bit tricky because you can only get a refund for a year where you paid and you made money in Germany. But if you're lucky and you start with us in January, or you pay monthly fees, and some of them are then, so if you would start now, it's very likely that you earn your first money next year. And after each year, you fill out your tax form, right? And there's a possibility to get some money back. And part of that is, for example, money you spend on getting the job and on coaching on that. So everything you would pay to us in Germany, it's very likely that you get everything back. but only in the year where you also make money. So if you pay to us this year and you don't make any money this year, unfortunately it's gone. On the other hand, if you pay monthly, so most of our VIP clients, for example, pay monthly fees, and then whenever we finally landed the job, we can make sure that you get some of the money back. Also makes the decision maybe a little bit easier for some people out there.
Speaking of taxes, do you happen to advise any of your clients on recommended tax advisors? Because I know that tax law, for example, in Germany is very strict, very complex, and getting a good tax advisor can be expensive, but definitely worth it. Do you have resources for that?
Yes, we have a couple of. The tricky thing is that most of the tax advisors are close to their limit. It's easy to get any tax advisor. It's tough to get the good ones. So they have stopped. So I can't promise something right now that for sure, yes, no problem. We'll have someone for you, but we can give you recommendations. And depending again on how complex your case is, AI is catching up fast. So there's a couple of tools that are coming very close if there's not a very tricky case. So just making the normal amount of money and maybe having some stock and some this and that is fairly easy. Of course, when it comes to expenses, like if you work in a different industry and you have to buy some work clothes, unfortunately a suit or something doesn't count, but if you really need it for work and you work as a worker, you could get this money back and stuff like that. That's stuff where someone has to tell you in your first year, and after that you understood, and then you can do it your own. That's where it's helpful. Why I would recommend first year to hire someone and ask them a lot of questions and advise them or ask them to give you everything they might come across that might help. And then second, third year, maybe you're already firm enough to do it yourself. That's very much possible as well.
Okay. So to wrap it up, do you have a mission statement or final words that you'd like to give about Move to Europe?
It's easier than you think, probably, but there's a lot to have in mind. So I want to encourage everyone out there who dreams about it but just scared. But I also wanting to encourage people that want to make it happen to really be informed and do the right things, because it will help you to save a lot of time waste and to not have any negative surprise at some point. But most common questions I get is with the language, and I can assure you, in Germany, for example, if you're only speaking English, you will have social life. There's so many people, all the young people speak fluently English, and even the older ones talking about like 50, 60 years of age now, most of them do.
Dankeschön to Ubran and Move to Europe for giving us such wonderful information about their company. Thank you so much for listening in to Destination Deutschland. Bis später.